Oh, it's not true at all. Nobody wakes up in the morning thinking that I want to know all about whatever you're selling. Conversely, if you're going to persuade them to buy what you're selling, whether it's an idea or a product or a service, then you've got to get them to the point where they do want to know all about it. So it's a bit of a conjuring trick, you know. You don't wake up every morning and think, I know what I'd like to do today. I think I'll spend today reading all the turgid bloody emails I get. And after I've done that, I'll sit down and go through all the crap direct mail I've received in the last week. And then if I'm still alive, I'll start reading the ads in the newspapers. And then when I've finished doing that because I'm a sad bastard, I'll start watching the TV commercial. No sane person wants to do that. Our challenge, I'll say as a writer, there's another better writer than me sitting at the back. But my challenge, the way I think, I've always thought as a writer, is when I sit in front of either a screen today or a piece of paper or whatever, nobody gives a shit about what I want to say. How am I going to say something that they cannot ignore? And that really is, I would say that other than determining as much as you can about the people you're trying to sell to, the greatest challenge is to find out that one little thing that they just can't ignore. I'll give you a good example. I handled the American Express account around the world for a while. And there was a guy who wrote one letter, and I think he wasn't in New York, he was in Atlanta, and he wrote a letter which began with the words, quite frankly, the American Express card is not for everyone. That letter ran for 13 years, and every year, twice a year, around the world, all our agencies would try and beat that letter. And I was one of many people who failed. Somebody told me a few weeks ago that I'd written one that had beaten it. Not true. Why was it such a great letter? It was a great letter because it encapsulated the two things that really matter to you when you're trying to sell anything. When you're trying to sell anything, there are only two things involved. There is what you're trying to sell and whoever it is you're trying to sell it to. You know? And all you're trying to do all the time is create a link between these two things and move them closer so that they fall in love with each other. Somebody buys something, yeah? So when you say something like, quite frankly, the American Express card is not for everyone, not everyone who applies is accepted, you are doing at least two interesting things, which are very difficult. The first thing you're doing is you're positioning the product in the mind of the customer. The normal way in which products are sold, and you know it, is they are sold by saying, this is for everyone. Okay? This is for everyone. You've got to have it. Everyone else has got it. Di-da-di-da-di-da. And the great thing about this letter was for the first time somebody said, this is not for everyone. Yeah? And there is another element there that works extremely well. You know, there are certain elements in the process of persuasion that always work well, and one of them is relevant surprise. That was relevant surprise. If you were, and I remember I did some work for Visa after I finished working with American Express, and they run a thing called Visa University in Birmingham at the university which pretends to, not Birmingham, in Oxford, the one which pretends to be Oxford but isn't.
Oxford Brooks.
Oxford Brooks, yeah. I always thought they made tea actually. And I remember saying to the people at Visa, I said, there's a very strange feeling to be here because I spent the last eight years trying to kill you bastards. You know? And I started talking about positioning. I said, your positioning at that time, which they stopped running, was Visa, it's everywhere you want to be. So that was all inclusive, yeah? And American Express, well, it's not for everyone. But suddenly challenging people's preconceptions. Suddenly somebody comes along and says, hey, you know, you've got to earn the right to have this card. You've got to pay your bill every month, blah, 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 blah. That's to do in which the way in which the product was constructed. But that element of saying something that surprises people is absolutely essential. I could bore about this for quite a long time. I mean, what you're going to do is just shut them.
We've literally stole that in our mastermind groups. Literally, the mastermind groups that we run isn't for everyone. They're not for everybody at the end of the day. So we stole that. We know where it came from now originally.